It's been a month since I sat down to do any deck profile. Yes, most of my work is pre-recorded. So it was quite a surprise when I came back, and to be fair, I'm still really busy, and suddenly this deck is blown out of proportion. Why does everyone want a Skyride now? Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm for here. Today I am back to cover Relight the Star Varjula, or Rewrite the Star Varjula, or Virgila, or Virgila. I have no clue who keeps changing this guy's name. Can the author please just come up and say how we're supposed to say it once? Because this guy is so fun and so popular of a deck. And recently, in the June issue of Corocoro, they've actually released an entire deck set for him. And it's really cool because, you know, you can buy the deck for less than 1,000 yen total, and it's hopping. This shit is hopping. It's insane and it's really fun. And there are many ways you can actually build this deck. In my previous video, link in the description, we focus more on an aggressive game plan. And to be fair, much of that is still very true today. We still focus a lot on early aggression. But the thing is that the new support from the Corocoro magazine, especially the standout cards, which would be Fanfare as well as Ezera, those guys are more focused on extending the lifespan of Varjula, giving you higher plays with higher impact, but only for later turns. So you trade off a lot of the big bang aggression that you used to have from set 2, and you give way to being able to play a more stable game plan. It's good, it's fun, there is some gimmicks involved, and you will enjoy it if you've been enjoying Varjula thus far. The downside is that this deck still has no ways to compete against your meta stuff like Shiranui, obviously, all hail Shiranui. June Band is looking really good, and it also has no ways to compete against decks that can shut down intercept or just stop your board, stuff like Vanguard Crest. I will say though that this deck is also hard countered by Sacrifice Glass as well as Sutra, I believe. So you will have to take note, especially in the DZ-BTO3 meta, moving on into DZ-LBTO1, there is some problems to expect. However, with all that out of the way, I want to say that this has got to be the most fun I've had in Divines in a while, and I really enjoy Divines a lot. I think this deck is really fun. I think if you're definitely under the age of 12, you 1000% should buy this deck. It's freaking fun. But if you're an adult, or if you're a sorry loser like me, you will still like this deck. I believe as long as you enjoy the Skyride manga, then this deck is virtually handmade for you, because a lot of the skills now are very faithful to the original text, and it's really fun. The manga is really cool. I mean, now he's fighting Dayusha, like what the hell. So okay, I think that's enough of me talking about the background of this deck and Skyride. Before I end this segment, I'm just gonna say again, links in the description for my Divines Explained video and my previous Varjula deck profile. So anything else that I'm not mentioning in this video is probably mentioned in those two. So just show it out of the way. Of course, channel memberships $3 and $7. Please support me so I can buy Shenri. Okay, so the right deck. Obviously we have Energy, Energy Crest, then grade 0, 1, 2, and 3 Varjula. So yeah, I mean there are multiple prints now of the Varjula Relight, which is really cool. And that's mainly because of the fact that it got reprinted. So you can play either version, either the one from the Corocoro manga, or you can play the one from DZ-BTO2. The one from the Corocoro manga has the children specific text, so it is meant to be read easier for children. But if you can read Japanese relatively well, or you're an adult, then you can clearly play the version from DZ-BTO2. I won't explain much. Energy, it's Energy. Just watch the Divines Explained video. I'm not going to explain this to you. Although there is an interaction for Energy now, so I will go through that later. Of course, we have Rising Star Varjula, he gains 2000 power for each rear guards, and when you want to ride from the right deck, you can pay a cost with Soul Plus 1 instead. Okay. Shooting Star Varjula, reveal a grade 3 Varjula from your right deck. If you have 4 more rear guards, this guy gets a crit. It's an act once per turn skill. And then when these units roll upon, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, add a grade 2 card from among them to your hand. If a Varjula unit is what rolled on top of him, you can search the whole deck instead. Again, this is all very standard. I will say though, for your grade 2 search now, you mainly only have 2 targets, and that's either Stardust Blade, which is your finisher Hisatsukado, or your Ezera, who is your Galaxian Mate unit. Very confusing, I know. I will break it down for you in the grade 2 segment, so stay tuned please. And of course, I'm just going to stop here to just say, if you are watching this video, if you've not subscribed yet, please do subscribe. I'm trying to hit, 1,000 subs eventually, hopefully, maybe. And a lot of you are actually watching these videos, which surprises me because, I don't know why you guys are watching so much of this. Like, the Varjula video and the Majesty Lord Blaster video will gain 1,000 views in a month. So, I don't know who is watching this. Thank you for your support. I would really appreciate if you guys subscribe. It really would help me out as a channel. And yeah, that's basically all I wanted to segue into, because holy shit, you guys like this stuff, huh? And then of course, grade 3 is Relight The Star Varjula, or Virgila, or Virgila, Virgila. I can't do this anymore, English bushiroad. Why did you guys... Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna say this one too. Do you know what this guy's name is in English? You can write it in the comment section below. I want to see if you guys actually remember the spelling. In Japanese, it's Fort and Revoltus, by the way. Okay, so, yeah, and that's also a spoiler that Fort Revoltus is not in this deck. Rewrite the Star Varjula, at once per turn, energy blast 3, choose a grade 2 card from your drop zone, call it the Rearguard Circle, choose one of your opponent's Rearguards, bind it. It's the same skill. Basically now, the idea is you want to keep respamming your copy of Ezera, who is a 15k shield, spoiler, and 15k attack. So you kind of just gave yourself a free 15k shield every turn, and you can always just intercept him off. It is a very good defense book. And it also gives Varjula a lot of hand sustain, because Varjula as a deck was very fragile beforehand. So having 15k shield just walk around your field it's not bad. I would not make it a priority to actively attack Ezera, because Varjula's hand is just pathetic, let's be real. But it does mean that, Varjula still retains its hand size problem, so you generally will have no problem fighting him if you already know the basic matchup. That being said though, definitely as the Varjula player, you want a hard mulligan for Ezera. Ezera is definitely a card you want to see on turn 2 or turn 3. You can search it with Shooting Star, but ideally you already have him on turn 2 because he's just that impactful. That being said though, that he is the main and, let's be fair, only target of Varjula's EB3 skill. His second skill is when he attacks CB1, choose one of your rear guards and stand it. I mean, can you guess who you stand? Can you? Moving on to our grade 3s. Our grade 3s, we play 4 copies of Relight The Star Varjula, or Virgila, or Virgila. I cannot do this anymore, English bushiroad. Please spare my suffering. Like, I don't care. I will move to whichever country you are in. I think it's Singapore. I'll work for you, and I'll do this translation for you, okay? That's how much I am willing to prove to you. You don't need to murder children over stupid phonetic spellings. And of course, we have 4 copies of Fanfare. Fanfare has got to be one of my most favorite yet most hated cards in D so far, because this guy is actually secretly tier 0 if you read his text. I really don't understand how they made a card so good, but at the same time there's enough drawbacks to make you go, ugh, no wonder it's for children. Raising the Flag of Victory Fanfare when placed on a Rearguard Circle. If you have a Rearguard Ezra on its name, so +1, it and that unit gain 5,000 power. And if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, they gain 10k instead of 5. So basically, if you go first, you basically can have an 18k rearguard and a 20k rearguard attacking. And if you're going second, it's 23 and 25,000 power. That's saying a lot considering the Varjula right line, where it prioritizes going second to attack. It now incentivizes you to go second even more, because Fanfare will straight up double his power output for that. It's really insane, it's really good. This guy is definitely one of the main reasons how Varjula kills. There is a downside, which I'll get to that once I finish reading the text. Second skill, on the front row rearguard circle, at the end of the turn, if your Vanguard's Varjula and you've cast a finishing move this turn, you can move this unit to the soul, draw, and countercharge 1. Finishing move obviously refers to Stardust Blade. We don't actually have a second finishing move just yet, but I may do a deck profile if they update it again. I don't know. Let's see how this video does, okay? We will see how this video does. That out of the way, I also do want to mention that it's a skill on front row. So if, as long as he's part of the attack, you can just move him to the soul at the end of the turn, counter charge 1, which is insane, by the way, because Varjula had a count blast issue last set. And then you draw. So he's a counter charge, and then he's returned. Why? Why did he give this guy so much? It's insane. I don't get it. Like, bro, if you gave a card like this to Eugene or Vermilion or, I don't know, Gryandra, anybody, they would be killing Shiranui outright. Shiranui would be dead on the floor, crucified, maimed, burned, murdered, dead, just out of this world if they printed this kind of effect for one of the other Dragon Empire decks. But no, we gave it to Varjula. But you know what? I'm happy they even gave such effects to Varjula. So in the future, if Varjula does get even more support, he could actually be meta. He could actually be good. I mean, this is a really good card. The downside with Fanfare is pretty much written on the card as well. It's grade 3, which means that it has no shield, so he's basically useless for your entire early game assault. He cannot be searched out with Shooting Star. Your only method of actually finding Fanfare is through Stardust Blade on turn 3. But that's also making a lot of assumptions. Guessing from the card text, especially since they do specify his end of turn skill needs you to have played a finishing move this turn, it does imply that they are assuming you do manage to play Stardust Blade every turn. Reality is, that doesn't always happen. So that means half of this card is locked to a conditional 4-off, one of which you would have already played on turn 2. And then the rest of this card is just if you happen to open Ezra, right? Which you should, but then again, because it's an on place, the only real way to cycle through Fanfare is if you actually did cast Stardust Blade. So it becomes very insular and it develops a very weird design where you perpetually are incentivized to keep drawing and keep going through your deck, but you don't actually have the tools to look for Fanfare, which sucks if you ask me. I do feel that with the level of support they have here now, I'm not in any ways worried about the future of Varjula. I definitely do think this deck, just by getting 1 to 2 more cards, if they even do, it can make this deck virtually tier 1. Easily. But right now though, it's still pretty fine. I think this is definitely like a tier 2-ish deck, or maybe 2.5. But it is definitely a deck worth watching out if you're fighting against children. I know that sounded wrong. Or if you're fighting players on a budget. Because if you are a budget player, you 1000% should get this deck if you can. If you're in Japan, I have no idea what the international situation is, but it's really, really fun, I can assure you. And this guy is definitely 3/4 of this problem. This guy is definitely hard carrying this deck because every time you draw Ezra, the win rate just goes up through the roof. Sorry, not Ezra, Fanfare. Fanfare is definitely the way. Ezra doesn't really matter, and we'll go to him right now actually. Moving on to our grade 2s. Our grade 2s, we play Shooting Star, Varjula in our right deck. I did say that just now, so you should be paying attention. The rest of our grade 2s is pretty easy. It's our finisher, Stardust Blade, and then after that, our other grade 2 is Ezra. Yes, his name is dead as just Ezra. There is no text before or after. His name is just Ezra. Okay, we'll get into it later. Shooting Star Varjula, we've already covered him. Bye-bye. I think I have to cover Stardust Blade first. Stardust Blade is I already did cover it in my previous deck profile, so link in the description. I'll just read what it does. I'll let you figure out the implications. Play this card if your Vanguard is a Varjula. It's a spell card, by the way. It's just printed sideways. Card Blast 1. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 card with the same grade or less as your Vanguard, call it to your Rearguard circle, and shuffle the deck. Your Vanguard gains 2 of the following effects. 1. During your turn, if your opponent retires one of your Rearguards, search your deck for 1 card and call it to the Rearguard circle. 2. During this turn, your Vanguard gains 3000 power for every normal unit on the Rearguard and in the drop zone. So basically, the first red tech, okay, the black text, the first skill, is basically a 1-for-1. So you play this card, you look at the top 5, you can call 1. So it's a 1-for-1 skill because it's an order, so you net 0. Alright, it's not bad. Second skill though is to basically ensure you cannot get what's that term? You cannot get Cannoneered. So in any shape or form, if any one of your Rearguards dies during your turn, it gives you an additional way to search your deck for any card and call it. This skill is mostly based on the manga because when Varjula fights Geist God just keeps repeatedly nuking the opponent's field, and that gives Varjula the ability to keep throwing out all his cards out of the deck to basically build for his third skill, which is that he gains 3000 power for every one of his Rearguards. They are normal units or normal units in the drop. It's really good as a scaling effect. I think turn 2 onwards, the general average power your Shooting Star Varjula can hit is about 28,000 power to critical by itself. Okay, so you heard it here first, okay? I'm telling you now, 28,000 power to critical. That's the average power that Varjula can get as long as you cast Stardust Blade and play the deck normally, especially because of stuff like your Soul Blast being normal units as well. That being said though, Escalating from turn 3 onwards, Stardust Blade becomes more and more powerful, but it is reduced to just one critical because Relight The Star doesn't have a critical skill. Only Shooting Star does. So your main priority when fighting against Varjula is that you want to guard the first Stardust Blade the most and then take the rest that come because they are only one critical. Yes, it is very good for numbers and it's generally a good card, but at the end of the day, I mentioned earlier, it is a net zero and the only ways to search it out are by those cards that search out orders. Thankfully though, they printed a lot of them in the Corocoro manga, so generally speaking, you should have no issue searching. The problem though is, are they actually worth your time? And you will see that later in the rest of the video. And of course, we have Ezra. I've already talked about Ezra through the Varjula segment. Generally speaking, this is the card that is listed as a card name on FanFan, so you want to see both of them on the board together. I mean, that's how it works in the manga. So the idea is that you generally want a hard mulligan for this guy, so that on turn 2 onwards, you can call him. He's really good because he's also really good shield. I mean, the card only has 2 things to talk about. What else am I gonna say? Yeah, that's about it. Good guy, just search for him. Yeah, you need to play 4 Ezra. I dare say Ezra is the only card you must play the 4 of. Everything else is compromisable. Yeah. Okay, moving on to our grade 1s. Our grade 1s, we play Rising Star Varjula in the right deck. Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier, right? Our grade 1s, we still have a lot of them though. We play 4 Perfect Guards. You have to play normal unit Perfect Guards, so specifically anyone from a main set, because they are normal units, so they contribute to Stardust Blade. So this is the one deck I actually tell you not to play Sanctitude in. And given that you have a low hand size though, normal PGs are actually better. So if you are watching this video and you're planning to build Varjula, the number one thing you should actually buy is this PG. So just keep in mind. 4 copies of Sharp Fang Dragon Eosfalas, 4 copies of Flame Princess Justine, 4 copies of Drag Ritter Shihak, and then 3 copies of Cosmo, the bestest boy. Please God, I need a Cosmo plushie. I need him safe and sound. This is the bestest boy, and he has the weirdest effects. Also, we playing him at 3 off because you understand when I tell you the effect. When this unit boosts Ezra, counter charge, energy charge 1. This is a once per turn skill. Ezra is of course this guy, so now you understand why Ezra is so important. A lot of the name supports only work around Ezra. He's basically the blaster blade of this deck at this point, but we all know the protagonist is Varjula. Okay, so I just need to get out of the way. And when your Ezra unit in the same column as this unit stands, you can stand this unit. Yeah, again, this tells you basically half the game plan. You want to get Ezra and Cosmo in the same column so that it generates a 23k column at minimum, and then after that, when you restand Ezra via the effect of Relight The Star Varjula, you also restand Ezra as well as Cosmo. So basically, for 1 CD, you stand a whole column. Yeah, that's it. That's the game plan. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, but it's in all sincerity, it's pretty fucking insane. That also, I need to mention one more implication on why Cosmo is very important for this deck, and that's also why I did link the previous deck profile. Energy. So as you guys can guess, Varjula's skill costs 3 energy, right, for the superior cost skill, which means that whether you go first or second, you're either gonna be at 3 energy or 6 energy every turn from grade 3 onwards, because you pay 3 energy to bring back 1 Ezra, correct? Now, the implication of having Cosmo give you an energy charge 1 is that eventually over a couple of turns, if you use him as a list turn 2 or turn 3, you can actually crack the energy curve and go further to actually draw a card with the EB7 skill, and yet still have extra energy to cast it and then superior call Ezra. So basically speaking, even though this card on no terms of itself contributes to card advantage, by boosting and giving 1 energy, it gives you enough energy to crack the curve so that you're never actually capped at 3 to 6 energy. I think this is the biggest problem of decks that use EB3 skills, especially for decks like Shoujo Doji. But the thing about Shoujo Doji is that you could just play Unite the Sky, which is another Corocoro promo, and you could use that to just turn off the 3 energy and draw a card, cycle, guard, etc. The thing about Varjula is that he's so bloody aggressive, you don't have the time to say, hold on, I want to play a defensive card. You don't have that time, you don't have that privilege. And as such, Cosmo becomes highly important at 3 or if not 4 off to ensure that you can swap the energy instead of just curving it at 6 and not tapping on that resource. You actually get a drawback instead. So, all in all, though, I would say this is definitely one of the most impactful cards of this deck. You definitely want this card at least a 3 to 4 off, but you will see why he's only at a 3 off when you see the rest of the cards. Again, though, Bester's Boy, look after it. I already mentioned about the 4 perfect guards, so I will go through that way. I've already talked about Rising Star Varjula, so I won't talk about him again. The rest of this should be quite easy to go through. For Shihab is basically Miltai Spike Fodder. I'm just kidding. It's basically more early aggression, but he gives you a right deck skill. So when placed on Rearguard Circle, he gains 5,000 pounds at the end of the turn, so he's an 11k guy. Okay, that's not bad. His second skill is, during your turn, if you want to pay the cost of right, instead of discarding a card from your hand, you can just move him to the soul. Excellent, because we have a lot of cards that use Soul Blast, and he helps for the early aggression by throwing him on the board with virtually no consequence. The downside is that if you fight control, then you lose. Okay, you lose. That's the joke. But other than that, though, it's pretty good if you manage to full rush. And you may be wondering, but Ames, how do I full rush? Eos for us. Eos for us, when this unit attacks or boosts, use Soul Blast 1, he gains 5,000 power for every other grade 1 or less unit on the board. This includes grade 0s, so if Varjula or someone else along the line was to join the assault, you actually get plus 5. Do note, unlike Stardust Blade, he actually can count for triggers. So if you have to call a trigger to fill a board, you actually do gain an additional 5,000 power, which is nice. So the thing about Eosferus is that while he doesn't use Soul the same way Fanfare does to spike power in 2 directions, he gives you enough emergency power in the sense that your opponent, if he knows what Eosferus does, he will be less likely to guard the later attacks because he knows that at any point in time you Soul Blast, it's potentially a plus 15 or plus 10,000 power to that column, and that's really dangerous. In the early game, this guy gets even worse because he's basically a card that could demand up to 23k thousand power when it comes to a guard value, so he hops over defenses pretty well. The problem with Eos Rust is that he really encourages you to go wide, so you will see the implications of that later for grade 0s. And our last grade 1 is Flame Princess Justina. Justina is the right fixer, is the order cycle double rare promo, double rare card from DZVTO2 Illusionless Strife. I've already gone through Justina. It's basically a card that makes sure that you will always get your hands on Stardust Blade no matter what. And she's definitely the second most important card you need to buy for this deck outside of the grade 1 perfect guards that I mentioned earlier. Justina basically ensures that any other way of searching the Stardust Blade is highly irrelevant because you can just search the whole deck for it, and you can even recycle your Stardust Blades per the number of copies of Justina you have in your hand. So, bearing all that in mind, this card is definitely still the best card to use to get your hands on Stardust Blade. It's a net 0, yes, but because it's so fast and so quick, and it can search the whole deck, you never whiff this effect, which is essential when you're trying to kill someone by deadline. You know what I'm saying? And our grade 0s, we obviously play 1 copy of Varjula. Yes, his name is just Varjula when he's a grade 0. And then of course the rest of our triggers, it's pretty common sense. We play 4 heal. Yes, I play multiple versions of the heal. We play 3 fronts because we need to go aggressive in this deck. So fronts is definitely the way, and the shield value of the fronts is definitely much appreciated. 1 Drug Veda over trigger. Drunk Veda, right? And the thing is that Varjula's CB1 skill is not once per turn. The +1 crit stays until the end of the turn. So generally speaking, you should buy a Drunk Veda for this deck. There's really no reason to play another over trigger in my opinion. And then the rest is just 8 crits. So yeah. And that will wrap up my Varjula deck profile for Corocoro / you can call this DZBTO3, I guess. I really do love this deck even more. I didn't think I would like this deck a lot after DZ BTO2, but they found a way to make me love this deck even more. I think, first of all, I'm extremely glad to bushiroad that they were willing to have the freaking balls to print this in a magazine as an entire deck. Salute to you, because you actually know what children want. Cheap decks. And you know what 27-year-olds online that nag on Twitter want. Cheap decks. And you did it. You freaking did it. I am so glad that we have it at this price point, because this basically invalidates any argument that anyone can say, oh, Vanguard's expensive in Japan. No, it's not. No, it's not. This deck has topped, mind you. You can build this deck for less than 2,000 yen total. And that's even without Shenri. I mean, if you can afford Shenri, then, you know, good life, I guess. But really, like, as a whole, you can see that it's really affordable and the synergies are really fun. It's very basic as well. So if you're a child, why are you watching this video? But if you are a child, you know, you would understand how this deck works pretty easily, or if you're just stupid, I guess. But really, I would say this deck is one of the main reasons why I'm still playing Vanguard today. Because it reminds me that, you know, there are people out there who can still enjoy any kind of deck they want, even for the next generation of Vanguard players. I mean, most of you are pretty old, self-proclaimed. You guys grew up with different decks, like, you know, I don't know, Omega Glandier, Sting Saver, Chrono Jet Dragon, again. But the thing is that for Varjula, it's a whole new generation for people to experience, and it's done in a manga that has a lot of care, evidently. I really have enjoyed reading Corocoro personally, and I think it's really good. They even do voice dramas for this shit, so I mean, there's a lot of effort done, and the fact that they're even making this deck really accessible is what I'm very happy about. They half fumbled the ball with Grab Grace, you know, when they did the whole 6,000 yen, no, not 6,000, 5,000 yen stand-up deck set. It was good, but this is strictly way better. For less than 1,000 yen, you get an entirely working archetype and a few other generics at that. I cannot criticize that. That is just really good. And the deck upgrades are not expensive. Also, there are so many ways to build Varjula. Even if you happen to have the thing called money, you could just build this deck even further. You could put in Latifa, you could put in Shenri, you can put in, I don't know, any card in this deck. You could put in Fawn Revoltus, you know, you could put that in as well. And it's just that good. It's very easy of a deck to build. As you can tell, the deck core is relatively stable because of the amount of in-archetype cards it actually has compared to the amount of generics this deck has. And that just makes it really fun. Can this deck beat Shiranui? No. Can this deck beat, I don't know, Prism? Probably not. But this deck can definitely beat your Depression because it's just that fun and that cheap. I certainly have no regrets buying this, and I would 100% recommend it. If you just have an extra 1,000 yen to spare, this shit's definitely worth it. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, I did this video mainly because I got a request to cover the Corocoro manga. I wasn't really planning to do this video based on my schedule, but I just decided to do it because why not? Moving forward, I'm gonna try and update a few more of my deck profiles right now. So do let me know in the comments which ones you want to get, you know, updated. At the same time though, the best way to actually get me to update a video is just to support a video. If a video hits 1,000 views, generally I tend to do a support video for it or a follow-up just to describe how the deck has progressed since then. So I do have some plans for some of my D-deck profiles to get supported, but we'll see. Really, it depends on, you know, different factors, both inside of cards and my own personal life and wallet. So we'll see about that. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to end this video before it becomes my longest D-deck profile. I'm still trying to prepare for a WGP, so, you know, wish me luck. I kind of Nagoya or something else, man. But yeah, I'll see you all next time. Take care.